and timely. David, you are keeping up with the times.
I'm right on it.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is, for those of you who don't know, for all the little Zoomers, this is the executive director of the American Prospect, David Dayen. He's the author of Monopolized, Chain of Title, and the 2021 Hillman Prize winner for magazine journalism. American Prospect is great. David has done numerous had numerous articles talking about what the Biden administration could be doing, whether it be, utilizing the Senate procedures, utilizing congressional procedures, or even the executive orders, like what kind of expansive powers the Biden administration could technically have, but refuses to follow through on because they're cowardly pieces of shit. But yeah, no, David's great. You've also, you have impacted policy, right? I think. What was it? One of the...
Sure, why not? Yeah, I think we've had our ability to force the conversation. Look, the Biden administration is going to do... They're going to do something about student debt, and we've been talking about student debt since 2019. So, I think that's one thing. You're talking about something specific, though.
I thought so, yeah, but never mind. It's fine. I feel
Look,
like I remember...
we have so much influence. It's hard to just pin it down to just one thing.
True. But David, today I wanted to, there's not enough of this. I wanted to get another man's perspective on what women should and shouldn't do to their bodies. We're of course
your booker came to the right person.
Hell yeah.
The right human. This is a terrible ruling, obviously. We've been writing a lot about it. The first thing to say is that it just doesn't stop here. That the same logic behind this ruling, saying that the word abortion didn't appear in the Constitution, and therefore we cannot allow this constitutional right or this right to privacy. It's no different than the logic that was used previously to allow gay marriage, to allow interracial marriage, to allow women to use contraception, to allow consensual sex between two adults who are homosexuals, and the same logic could be applied to take away all of those rights. And there's some lip service in the draft ruling that Alito makes to say, no, abortion's different. Seriously, we're not going to do anything else. Just give us this. We're not going to do anything else. There's no reason to believe that. And it's because the logic makes no difference. The same points that are being made, you just take out the word abortion and put in contraception, and there's everything would read the same. So to me, that's what stands out, is that this is the beginning of an attack on vulnerable populations, on whether it's women, whether it's the LGBT community, whether it's African Americans. This is just the beginning.
Ultimately, none of those words are in the Bible either. But what's more important to me is that abortion is a medical procedure, right? It's healthcare. It's a medical procedure. It helps give women the power to do something. It gives women more power over their own bodies. There are plenty of medical procedures that are not ever mentioned in the Constitution, so it's ridiculous. But I think the significance in this one is that, like, they... at least according to Alito, this pertains to the personhood of a life being taken away, because he takes the abortions are killing babies position, which is normally psychotic and certainly psychotic with respect to like the way that this issue polls, considering that there's
also think about it in this sense. You are a doctor, you want to give a woman medication. A woman came in, complained of some ailment or another, and you want to give them medication to fix that. That medication, if that woman happens to be pregnant, might be an abortifacient, right? And so you don't want to give that drug because you could be in violation of the law in the particular state that you're in, depending on their laws around abortion and how harsh they are. And so this isn't about denying women reproductive care solely. This is about denying women health care. And it really could amount to that.
Yeah, like ectopic pregnancies that require an abortion, or even a miscarriage that might require an abortion on top of that. Like there's a medical procedure that accompanies a miscarriage, depending on how far into the pregnancy you are in. So, yes, this is, once again, Republicans, like you correctly pointed out, denying women specific types of health care, but Republicans aren't exactly great on health care anyway. They just want to punish women for, I guess, the crime of having sex. That's, I guess, the short and sweet of it. It's a
of tempting men.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to really get into the power dynamic around this, yeah, sure.
Yes. The removal of an ectopic pregnancy isn't an abortion, dipshit, says war hero from the past. That's really interesting because according to the Mississippi lawmakers, it quite literally is. And yes, it is an abortion. Anyway, so sorry, I shouldn't be reading chat while you're in here, David. So that one was just like too stupid for me not to react to. Okay.
Yeah.
I am very angry, not just at the Republicans who are demons, obviously, who are working on the whims and pushing for this incredibly cruel piece of legislation. That is incredibly cruel, working up to this incredibly cool decision that is going to trigger, the criminalization of abortion in like 13 to 18 states automatically, including up to 26 states that will have some form of like restrictions on abortion. But I'm also angry at the Democratic Party. I think that the Democrats have had many opportunities for the past 50 years to codify Roe v. Wade in the form of some kind of helpful legislation. And yet they refuse to do so. Nancy Pelosi herself, until recently, was talking about how we need to drop this, anti-choice Democrat, party line. Like there are going to be some anti-choice Democrats. We have to live with that. Nancy Pelosi is still personally campaigning for Henry Cuellar in Texas, is the last remaining anti-choice Democrat, for those who don't know, against Jessica Cisneros. Henry Cuellar is a 9-time incumbent here and is really just awful. Jim Clyburn is also campaigning for him.
Well, let's talk about that even more because what you just mentioned, Jim Clyburn, that is happening right now.
Yeah.
As we speak, there is a rally in San Antonio, and Jim Clyburn, who is the number 3 in the House leadership, the House Majority Whip, is in San Antonio right now, shoulder to shoulder with the only member of the Democratic caucus who voted against the codification of Roe last September. Right now, this is happening right now, like 2 days after this leaked document that shows the imminent demise of Roe v. Wade. Right now, this is happening, and we actually have a reporter there right now who is going to bring back what she saw and write that up for us, and you'll see that up in the morning at prospect.org. It is unbelievable, and it's Clyburn, it's Hoyer, it's Pelosi. We wrote a report that's up on the site today about how the vendors that Cuellar is using for his mail, for his media placement, for his social media, for research, is they are DCCC approved vendors. These are the main arm of House Democrats are using the same vendors that Henry Cuellar, the only anti-abortion Democrat, is using. We went to the website of one of these vendors, AL Media.
Investigated by the FBI recently.
That's true. That's also true. We can talk about that.
He may or may not have been working with some Azerbaijan dudes. I don't know. Allegedly. I'm just saying.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Right. We went to the website of one of these particular organizations, these vendors, and at the website it says, "We are in this line of work to protect progressive values and win." That is the website of the organization that is got paid, I think, $750,000, a little bit more than that,
But David,
by Henry Cuellar's campaign.
Who is Henry Cuellar running against in the Democratic primary? I mean, obviously the Democrats. I mean, they're faulty, but like I'm sure he's not running against someone who's I don't know, significantly more progressive than he is, right?
Yes, a progressive pro-choice woman named Jessica Cisneros that almost won over Cuellar in 2020, lost by about 3 points. In the March primary, was within a couple points, and because neither of them went over 50%, they go to a runoff, and this race is happening on May 24th. So this is 20 days from now. There's going to be this election. The only pro-life Democrat in the Democratic caucus in the House against a pro-choice woman. And by the way, the organization Emily's List, that is supposed to be the organization, the premier organization that supports pro-choice women
and Michael Bloomberg
in Congress, and Michael Bloomberg, right? Emily's List has spent, I think it was $120,000 on this race in support. They are supporting Cisneros, but with a paltry token amount of money. The support that they gave in a race in Louisiana early last year was $2 million. So 1/20th of what they did for that Louisiana special election, they have put in to this race, which is the race. I mean, this is the only target if you're talking about pro-choice or pro-life men in the House Democratic Caucus. This is the only race there is. This is the only one, and they are not going all out to fight him.
Interesting you mentioned Jessica Cisneros, by the way. Of course, we are going to be having her on the broadcast tomorrow, chat. There it is. I'm leaking it. So there is that as well. I'm also going to be raising funds for, abortion funds in red states. So that was...
Well, there are a lot of great organizations for that. And that's really what we should be talking about. I mean, we spent the last 48 hours in the media talking about how horrible it is to the decorum of the Supreme Court to leak a document and to have this nuclear bomb on the inner workings of the court. This is such a horrible thing, and the leak, and not the substance. Of what happened, what's about to happen here. And frankly, I don't even really want to talk about the politics of it so much as the substance of what it's going to be like for women in this country under this new regime. And it's really frightening.
So absolutely. One thing that we got to talk about, obviously, is we've covered how awful this is going to be for women, and in some ways, like, it's already been really awful for women in these red states, even before the bounty laws. Like, immediately, people will be like, "Oh yeah, you mean like the Texas bounty laws, right?" It's like, no, actually, as a matter of fact, there are so many procedural hurdles, like red tape, that the Republicans have been able to throw in the way of providing free, or not even free, but just any kind of reproductive health services to women in red states for the longest time, that there's a reason why there's only one functioning abortion clinic in the state of Kansas, or I think in Missouri as well. Like, there's so many.
Mississippi.
I mean, so many.
It's true. Functionally speaking, abortion has been out of reach for millions of women in red states across the country. That is absolutely true. And the old version of this, where you'd have to they had these things called targeted regulation of abortion providers, where they would have special rules only for abortion clinics. Things like it would have to have a hallway X feet long, or it would have to have admitting privileges, or it would have to have doors that locked from the inside and outside. Just crazy, like, little niggling coding laws that would be used very specifically to target abortion providers. You also had things like parental notification, or you would have to go to a pregnancy crisis center, right? Or all of these ways to deter people from actually making the decision that they were entitled by law to make. So it was already really difficult. But one thing that women could do was travel to another state, and that was a huge hardship for most women, especially women who didn't have a lot of money. But at least they could do it. Now, what we're seeing with this looming ban that's coming down, and which will trigger, I believe, in 26 states, a ban on abortion, including in many states like Michigan and Wisconsin, which had laws on the books before 1973 that now will be reverted back to. So whether or not their legislature or their governor, these are two places with Democratic governors, whether or not they'd agree with it, it's going to revert back to what the state was before 1973. So that, number one, is going to expand the number of states that are going to make this functionally illegal. Number two, we're starting to see more aggression around states trying to prevent women from leaving their own state to get an abortion. And we're seeing that in many states across the country, and that's a really dangerous scenario.
And because of that, even Connecticut is like, Connecticut was the last state that actually put a countersuit measure in place where, like, if you go there and get an abortion, then the state will help you countersue Texas, for example, if you are a Texan. Right. And it's completely insane that this is the point that we've gotten to. But
it's where we have to be. I mean, because in order to make this option available, you're going to have more states beyond Connecticut take that action.
So, David, what can the Democrats do, though? Because so far, we have heard from Joseph Robinette Biden. Let's go, Brandon. He said multiple times now that he is, one, not even remotely interested in abolishing the filibuster, and two, you're just going to have to vote for pro-choice candidates at the state level. It sucks to suck, but you just got to vote harder. Now, I'm of the mindset, or at least I thought, that we already did our job, and that this was, kind of their moment here, their moment to shine a little bit. I mean, we did our job. We did our job in even fucking Georgia, and for some reason, they still need more, I think.
I mean, at the moment, it's not just that there aren't 60 votes in the U.S. Senate to codify Roe. There aren't 50 votes, because the last time they put this up, Joe Manchin voted no. And as we know, Joe Manchin is the president. So you only have 49 votes at most for these laws, and you certainly don't have 50 votes, even under this environment, for the ending the filibuster. And then you have Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski out there who are claiming to be shocked that Republicans on the Supreme Court lied to them allegedly about this. But they're not going to do anything about it either.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe the last time that the Senate voted on this, and the Senate is going to vote again, so we're going to get at least a count, but it's not going to do any good. I believe the last time the Senate voted, Collins nor Murkowski voted to codify Roe, as far as I remember.
It's just crazy that you can live on a floating boat on a river and make such dangerous choices. It's just
so as far as that's concerned, I don't see a lot of promising stuff happening at the federal level. So at the state level, I think it's incumbent upon states that elected large Democratic majorities, states like California, where the lawmakers are saying all the right things, that we're going to welcome women into this state, and we're going to give them an environment where they can make their own choices for their own medical care, to be as aggressive as possible on the policy side to make sure that happens, whether it's adopting something similar to the Connecticut law or adopting some sort of funding mechanism to get women in other states into a place where they can have an abortion legally. we're going to need stuff like that. We're going to need a lot of mechanisms supporting, and then what you can do on a personal level, as you just said, you can support groups that are working towards this independently without, that don't have a governmental mechanism, but groups like the Abortion Access Front, or I'm sure you can name 20 of them right now, but those groups are going to need a ton of support, and it's the independent groups. I mean, Planned Parenthood has tons of money. God love them, but they have tons of money. It's the independent groups that are working on the ground in these very hazardous conditions that are going to need the support right now.
Absolutely. So one thing that I've been stating, now you're a lot smarter than myself. You've been around for a lot longer. You know what's going on in, the hallowed halls of Congress. I am of the mindset that, and I was briefly talking about this in maybe more colorful terms before he came on, but I was talking about how like the Kevin McCarthy and the Republican Party in unison collectively lost their fucking shit over Madison Cawthorn talking about like cocaine orgies or whatever. But we can't get the Democratic Party to like react in a similar capacity to people like Joe Manchin, who are consistently playing the rotating villain, or towards Kristen Sinema.
They support them. What did we just talk about with Cuellar?
I
not
used to
like,
say,
he hasn't been called into the teacher's office the way that, or the principal's office the way that Cawthorn was. No, they go out there and they run campaign rallies for him.
So I have suggestions. I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna fire off suggestions. You can just give yes or no. Okay, on how to whip these votes. Okay, specifically.
Yeah.
For Manchin, Sinema, maybe even Maggie Hassan, or whoever the fuck is going to play the spoiler role in the rotating villain cast. Number one, actually use a real physical whip.
That has some negative historical connotations that I don't think you want to get into.
All right, maybe not a whip. Okay, something without historical connotations, but like it's just the term is whip, so it works perfectly there. Okay,
like the big shepherd's cane, like at the Apollo, maybe something like that.
We use one of the, how the Taliban, like they'll use like what do they call it, a switch? They use that maybe. A club, I don't know. That's one. So, a ruler. Okay, so that's one. But like, seriously speaking, like I've talked about throwing them off committees for a very long time, or at least threatening to do that, and it's not something that the Democratic Party wants to do. Is there any is that a thing? Can we pressure the Democrats to do that? Is that even viable?
Well, I mean, interestingly, after Amy Coney Barrett was made the Justice of the Supreme Court, after she got through that confirmation hearing, and Dianne Feinstein said, "This was the best hearing I've ever seen in my life," and hugged Lindsey Graham, they did kick Dianne Feinstein off of that committee. Now, probably she might not know it, but they did kick her off.
I think her time had come. I think we gotta...
Yeah,
we got to take her up
conservatively
to the bar.
say.
Okay, Dianne Feinstein's brain is mush.
So they have shown that. My point is, they've shown the capacity to do this when they've needed to. So you can only say that they don't have an interest in doing it when it comes to these wayward votes. People like Manchin or Sinema. Now, maybe there's a fear, at least on the part of Manchin, maybe on Sinema's part, that they would bolt the party.
I don't believe that.
If you take away their vote, they would bolt the party.
No shot.
You don't think so?
No shot. Joe Manchin is Joe Manchin because he's a Democrat in West Virginia. No one would give a single shred of a fuck about Joe Manchin if he was just another annoying Republican senator. Everyone would be like, okay, fuck off. You're just as annoying as the rest of them. And that is the only reason why Joe Manchin gets any play. He would have zero fucking lobbyist money. He would just be like any other dumbass Republican senator. He'd make decent money doing, dumbass Republican shit. But the only reason why he gets so much play in the media is because he's a Democrat. Right. So whenever he fucking threatens that he would change, whenever he threatens like, oh, he'd be a fucking Republican or whatever, first of all, he's losing that Republican primary to some dude who is literally inbred. The more inbred that dude is, the easier the likelihood that dude's going to win. Okay? Like, no shot. And that's precisely why he hasn't changed his party. Because
The other funny thing about
That's it.
that is that what if the tables were turned and he's in the he changes, he's in the Republican Party, and then he goes against something that is Republican dogma, right? Do you think that they would humor him and wait around and say there's nothing else we can do, we have to keep him in the caucus? Do you think that would be
Fuck no.
their move?
They would Madison Cawthorn him. Photos of him wearing women's panties on his fucking river houseboat would surface immediately on the National Review, and you know, you'd have the Occupy Democrats being like, expose him, retweet to expose Joe Manchin. So you know, that's not happening. That would never happen.
Right.
Which is why I always say I want the Democrats to at least play by the same style that Republicans play, but they don't care. They don't have the same priorities. They don't give a shit about, you know, winning votes. They can run on moments like this by showcasing how fucking horrible the Republicans are. This is a gift
The
to Nancy Pelosi.
the point I want to make, and the point you can make if you're talking to, you know, people in Congress or calling your congressperson, is that to say that no, there's no way that we can throw Joe Manchin off a committee. All you have to do is
throw
use,
him.
well, or throw him at all. You just use the Feinstein example. I mean, they did this. They did this like 2 years ago.
Yeah. So there's that. That's my like least aggressive, least violent method, and it's something that I've been screaming about for many, many years at this point. But like no one seems.
It
to
doesn't have a
listen.
blunt object attached to it.
No, I mean I say that too. Don't worry. But I have an idea called the gauntlet. Like if you automatically trigger if you reach like a certain level of if you go below a certain approval rating. That means like a champion can beat the shit out of you in your state. We pick like someone who's like roided the fuck up, and you get to get your ass beat on the floor of the Senate, like straight
the
up
octagon or something.
Yeah, no, literally, you have to go to the gauntlet. That would literally that threat of proletarian violence would, I think, in my mind, lead senators to at least respect the wishes of their constituents way more than their corporate benefactors, I think.
But look, they won't even go to town hall meetings anymore, let alone the octagon.
No, that's why it has to be a law. Like I'm pushing for it. Anyway, so that's the gauntlet, but that's you know, that's something that I personally believe would make American politics more entertaining. C-SPAN, we could do pay-per-view. Like that would make $1 billion. I would spend endless amounts of money to watch some like big, bulky, roided fucking ex-coal miner guy just absolutely beat the doors off of Joe Manchin in the floors of the Senate. It's like everyone is like clapping.
Well, I mean, we came close to seeing that on January 6, 2021, didn't we?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was, you know, that went the other way though, unfortunately. Yeah. But hey, listen,
yes,
so that's one thing. What was the other thing? Okay, so what is the likelihood of like yeeting the filibuster not happening?
It does not seem so. I mean, Manchin and Sinema reiterated just this week that you know, Sinema threw out a bunch of examples of votes where attempts to restrict abortion rights were stopped by the filibuster, as if those are the only things that have been done. So she's not for it, and Manchin's not for it, and so, you know, maybe if in a hypothetical 2022 election where Democrats pick up at least 2 seats, if not more, then that might happen. But I don't see that scenario being terribly likely.
These hands are equal opportunity, by the way.
Rating.
Not that you asked, but these hands are equal opportunity. I'm just saying, Kirsten Sinema, watch out in the gauntlet. Anyway,
well, you're not from Arizona. You said it has
I
to
will
be
fucking move down there. I will literally move down there. And live there. Ew, Arizona. Yikes. Okay. So okay.
Well, you could just put your money towards, you know, buying one of your many houses.
That's true.
Just put it in Tempe and then just change your registration.
Yeah, equal rights, equal lefts. I will, you know, purchase. Oh well, there you go. And I can avoid taxes too. It's awesome. So by living there for 6 months plus 1
win
day,
again. The
exactly.
rich get richer here.
Yeah.
With Hasan.
So here's the other. Here's the other question then. What can the Democratic Party do other than, you know, try to push for the filibuster, the end of the filibuster? What can they do in this circumstance? Is there like like some weird 18th century, 19th century law that they could use. You know what I mean? Like you're very good at finding stuff like that in the same way that like Republicans are. You know what I mean?
Well, there's some smaller ideas, but I mean, I think a larger idea that definitely we need to move towards is a coherent and consistent judicial philosophy that is pushed as aggressively from the left as it is from the right. I mean, the reason that we're here is because the Federalist Society essentially has a veto over Supreme Court nominees, and they are the gatekeepers of who gets to be on the federal bench, and they speak largely with one voice. And we don't have that kind of discipline. If you asked me I can tell you exactly what the conservative judicial philosophy is. It's, some of it's Calvin ball, but a lot of it is based on, if it's not, it's got to be in the text. It's got to be in the text of the Constitution, got to be in the text of the statute. We're going to use this originalism, and because that is inherently limiting, that's going to put constraints on federal policy across the board.
Okay, next idea. Originalism, right?
Yeah.
First of all, I think it's bullshit. Straight up. I mean, one constitutional law class, and I was like, nope, this is bullshit. Okay? It's just you're a reactionary, and you've decided that this is like the most intellectual way that you can come across. Like,
it's just a way to get what you want.
Yeah,
right?
it's just a way of intellectualizing reactionary politics. So you can still go to the cocktail parties where you guys like put stuff in your butts, like cherry or whatever.
It's like, sorry, I'd love to give a constitutional right to abortion, but I just don't see this in this text that was written at the time that we were still using leeches in healthcare policy. So I'm sorry, I'd really love to help you out, but I can't do it.
Okay, so we're on the same track here then. You can be an originalist, but you have to die at the age of 35 from dysentery.
There you go. Yeah,
I think that's a good rule.
That's an originalist strategy. Yeah.
At that point, a lifetime appointment.
You're only able to use the health care that was available to us in 1787. Maybe that's the way to go.
100%.
Yeah, that they poke around with their fingers at your wounds.
Step aside, Bill Maher. These are the new rules. I think that these are my rules. I think that these would be better. This would make society better.
Anyway, just to wrap up my point, like, we need a coherent judicial strategy. When Ketanji Brown Jackson talked about, what her judicial philosophy is, I couldn't figure it out. I mean, it was just, there was no substance behind it. And so we need to be much stronger in having, and some of those groups are being built, Demand Justice and et cetera, but it's still at the level of philosophy of finding, training, and targeting and understanding what that philosophy is, and then supporting judges to be moved through the system who recognize that philosophy, I think is a very important project.
One that will, of course, require billions of dollars in the same capacity that the Federalist Society has been around for, 20 years? But most importantly,
fortunately, I'm talking to the guy that can bankroll it.
Yeah, exactly. Single-handedly. I will be able to go against the power of capital in this country.
Your Twitch dollars at work.
Yeah, me and the podcaster brigade, we're gonna, dirtbag post our way into super PACs.
That's it.
So you laugh, but that's like literally every fucking annoying internet anarchist in my mentions. It's like, why don't you do a super PAC? Like, okay, dude. That is a long-term solution. So in the short term, it's just like, decentralized local health.
And pressuring for more access, pressuring, there was this thing, a horrible way that it was imposed by, I think it was Amazon, that said they're going to have a fund for women in their company that can be used for reproductive health. Of course, it excluded the workers at the warehouses who actually need that help.
Yeah.
But pressuring around that front, that this should be a part of a benefit package. Pressuring, companies should know that if they're going to locate in states where women are second-class citizens. The women who they want to get to work for those companies should talk to the hand. So I think there are going to be some changes around society around this. I think for many years, the conservative viewpoint on these kinds of issues, judicial issues. Now, obviously there are many more judicial issues beyond abortion, and the thing that this court loves more than anything is corporations, and so we need to talk when we're talking about the judiciary. We need to talk about their corporate rulings too. But I think for many years the intensity on the right on these so-called hot button issues, social issues, issues around the courts, the intensity has been much greater on the right than on the left. And what we're starting to see in polling just around this issue in the last 48 hours is that intensity is now greater on the left than is the right. And it needs to stay there.
It's
because
it's
that's
an
the
issue,
only way for it to be fixed.
That consistently polls with 70% favorability. It's mind-boggling that they were able to.
But that intensity wasn't there. It was 70% support. But yeah, we have this. It's a right. We're not going backwards. We don't have to worry about it too much. And now that's flipped, and people just realize, even though they should have realized this a year ago when the court took the case, that they were obviously going in this direction. To see it in black and white, to see it in a draft opinion makes it real. And so now we're starting to see that balance shift, and that's where it needs to stay. That intensity needs to stay up.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the only thing that Democrats are willing to do in this situation is just tell people to vote harder, which I do think could eventually backfire on them. I know that they're probably seeing this as like a gimme, a really good opportunity to campaign. If my emails are any indication, Nancy Pelosi has not shut the fuck up in my emails about asking me for more dollars. I will never give you money, Nancy Pelosi.
Yep. Strangely enough, when we asked her if she still supports Henry Cuellar, she didn't get back to us. I mean, of all the emails she's been sending out, she has not sent the email that says, I am rescinding my support of Henry Cuellar.
No, because her position.
And that would be the email that would do the most for her credibility.
Yeah, she's spoken about that. I think she always says I have to support the incumbent. I think that's what she was saying. You don't have to go and campaign there physically, though. That's a little bit more than supporting the incumbent, Nancy Pelosi. And also, not only that, but you didn't really care about the incumbent when it came to the Senate with Ed Markey. But hey, what do I know? Yeah, you're right. It's just I think that Democrats, however, are using this as an opportunity to they think that this is going to galvanize the base. But I don't know.
And look, I mean, it's certainly the case that, allowing Republicans to sweep the House and Senate, where they're likely in a world that's post-Roe to try to pass their own bill that is a federal ban on abortion entirely. That's not a good scenario either, right? I mean,
they own everything right now, and Republicans are still winning. That to me, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not as cucked as the rest of the Democratic Party base is. But when I see Democrats be like, "Oh fuck," throw their hands up in the air to the side and go, "Oh man, we just got to vote harder next time." I guess it's like, well, we did that already, and it's demonstrable proof that voting hard is not helping. You need to do something else. You need to step the fuck in and do something at this point.
I mean, the year this should have been taken care of is the year that Democrats had 60 votes in the U.S. Senate, and
if
a
only
huge
in
majority in the
2007,
House.
if only in 2007, Barack Obama made a campaign promise to codify Roe v. Wade.
That's right.
Oh, he did.
So
that.
I mean, and you can go back 50 years for the opportunities for this, but that's a big one. That's a big one when they had the opportunity, they had the votes for a pretty decent amount of time, decent interval, and they didn't think ahead. They didn't, and look, Democrats should forget about just codifying Roe, they should be codifying Obergefell. They should be codifying the gay marriage ruling.
Absolutely.
Because that's next. That's next. And so if they wanted to do something positive right now, they would start, countering the court with a bunch of bills.
Yeah, that would require, and this is my theory, that would require the Democrats to actually take a position and like hold Republicans accountable to said position and bully them over their head. Because notice how the first moment that Joe Biden even mentioned that he was going to potentially read the American Prospect and follow one of your executive orders that you clearly wrote out multiple times, which is, of course, the abolition of student debt, student debt loan relief was something that he even briefly brought up, and immediately Republicans were like, nope, we're against that, fuck that, and the talking points started flying, because that's what reactionaries do. They need something to react to. They need something to fight against. And when there is nothing that the Democratic Party is putting on the table, there's no progressive legislation that they're fighting for because they've completely given up, then Republicans are going to use every fraction of power that they have, specifically in the state legislatures that they have completely dominated now, to roll back rights even further, and then get the Supreme Court to, take a states' rights position.
The difference there, of course, with student debt is we don't need Congress to get that done. You don't need Joe Manchin to say yes or no. You don't need Mitch McConnell to say yes or no. You can just do that, and it's very clear you can just do that because Republicans last week introduced a bill that said that tried to block the president from cancellation of student debt. They would not need to throw that bill on the table if it wasn't already within the authority of the president. So they know it. The Republicans are aware, Democrats are aware. They have this ability under the Higher Education Act to cancel student debt. And we've been sitting here waiting for over a year trying to figure out not only whether or not Biden will do it, but what he will actually do. Is he going to cancel a token amount, $10,000 per individual? Is he going to cancel $50,000 per individual? Is he going to put some stupid means test on it? Even though most of the people who
they have to. That's your kink shaming. They have to. There has to be a means test.
Most of the people who have student debt will make under that means test. It's a pointless provision in terms of what it would actually do. All it would accomplish is make life impossible for student debtors to have to jump through all these hoops to confirm and verify their eligibility.
Yeah, they even suggested that for law for lawyers and doctors, which is really sick. I love that that was something that was being floated around, I think, right?
Yeah.
You have a career in law. Like, imagine being a public defender and you're like, oh, sick. Like, I won't have my student loan debt relief coming from me.
Right. Awesome. I mean, and what we know historically about means testing is that it's, first of all, much more expensive. You got to come up with a mechanism. You got to come up with a way to administer it. And the second thing is that it ends up hurting the vulnerable people that you're most trying to help, because those are the people that can't go over that hurdle, go over that burden of the verification of the eligibility. And so it's just counterproductive to an nth degree. And also, it won't stop Republicans from saying that certain people who receive debt relief are undeserving. I mean, that's the whole reason to do it, right? That's we don't want the headline that's Donald Trump's kid got a student debt canceled. They're going to find somebody out there whose parents are well off by whatever standard of well off that they want to figure out, and that their kid got $10,000 or 20, however many thousands of dollars of student debt canceled. And they're going to say the same thing. I mean, the test, the means test right now is on income, but it doesn't take into account family income. And so they'll just move the goalposts and say, if your family was rich, then you shouldn't have gotten student debt canceled.
Yeah.
It's obvious to me that it won't work on what the attempt is to diffuse the conversation. That won't work. They'll find a way to Republicans will find a way to carry forward that conversation, and all it will do will just make people mad, and it'll be a big hassle, and some people who were entitled to relief won't get it. That's it. That's all it will do.
Yeah. Remember when Donald Trump gave everyone unconditional, money?
Imagine that.
And then some people got money.
Well, Biden did that too, and
it was
and
broadly
he seems
popular.
to have forgotten.
No, it was
And
broadly
he seems
popular.
to have forgotten how popular it was. He seems to have forgotten the moment when he was actually a popular president, when he engaged in things like that.
Yeah, it's almost like means testing these things for no reason to combat these the manufactured outrage cycles that the Republican Party is going to create regardless is a silly thing to do, and you should just do it regardless, and no one gives a fuck. I'm sure.
Try more. That should be the answer.
Plenty of rich people got money in that situation. It didn't matter ultimately. You know what I mean? Plenty of rich people got money.
The answer to you shouldn't do this should be cry more. That should be the answer.
All right. Well, David, thank you so much for coming on. This was
great.
Wonderful as always. I love when you educate the youth and
thank you, Hasan.
Tell and then agree with my insane talking points about the gauntlet, which you're on the record for. Why is
I got very quiet when you.
Why is the American Prospect not writing about the gauntlet?
I hope you noticed that.
That's my question to you. This is investigative reporting. I'm reporting.
Well, the one thing that I can promise you, the one thing that the American Prospect will be writing about is why should we respect judicial review to begin with?
Oh, great. I mean, I disrespect it all the time.
Let's put that into the conversation.
Yeah, no, seriously. Okay, well then, but like you can make a mention of the whole dysentery thing then. You know what I mean? Like if you're an originalist, like you have to die at the age of 35. We will saw off. You'll get gangrene and we'll saw off your leg. One leg.
You have to operate as if you're in the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, it's not like you're using it. You're sitting around all day. Let me saw off your fucking leg. You know what I mean? Just one.
The robe will cover it anyway.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad that we found agreement once again.
Okay. Very good. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for coming on, David. All right.
See you later.
And hope to see you soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye. All right, folks. That was